Warriors, rise! China, the new superpower. Could this be true? We're going to walk through the facts, figures, numbers, logic. My name is Coach JV. I am the top health, mindset, and crypto coach in the world. Remember, what you believe in your heart, you think in your mind, will eventually become your words and become your reality. If you can see it in your mind, eventually you can hold it right here in your hand. What you repeatedly do gets ingrained in your subconscious mind. What gets ingrained in your subconscious mind becomes an unconscious activity. Now, why does this stuff flow right off of my tongue? And why did I share this with you 2 years ago that China was most likely to become the new superpower? Because what I repeatedly do is study 8 to 9 hours a day of research. Along with my research team, we have a team of 13 people in the 3T Warrior Academy. Follow me on Coach JV _. You're going to see this come to life. We are an ecosystem of people doing research, bringing you the information you need to manage you into the new quantum financial system. So I've been studying this stuff for a very, very long time. Now, many people call me the tinfoil hat guy. I told you, as you look this way, there's a whole nother narrative going on this way. And if you watch my videos from 2 years ago, you're actually seeing this stuff that I was saying that was tinfoil hat stuff coming to fruition. I am not clairvoyant. I cannot see the future. But what I can see is that humans repeat themselves over and over again. And one of my biggest mentors in regards to the economic piece is Ray Dalio. I follow all his information. We're going to watch a short clip from his video. I'm going to recommend you go buy his book. I would love to get him on the channel. Let's manifest it. Let's feel it. Ray Dalio, we'll see you on the channel soon. But first of all, before you do anything, Warriors, join the 3T Warrior Academy. Cryptocurrency courses, over 130 courses, mining, how to get into crypto, what is it, how to do it, and an example. Access to my portfolio, exit strategy. You have exchanges. You have, we just added DAOs in there. We're added DAOs, NFTs, cash flow, creating passive income with cryptocurrency. You get access to my team. You get 7 calls a week. What else? Nutrition, subconscious mind programming, the best program in the world. So let's go ahead and get this kicked off, Warriors. You came here to learn. You came here to grow. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking you through this video first. Now, remember, Ray Dalio is one of my favorite people. Number one, he's a billionaire investor. Number two is he is an economist. And what he did was he created this system where he started to look back in history. We're going to watch about 8 minutes. It's going to be a longer video. We're going to watch this video for about 8 minutes. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to listen to the patterns. We are in the third cycle of an economic cycle, which is war. Okay. Now, after war, there's a massive societal change. You are about to experience that. It may take 2 years. It may take 3 years. It may take 4 years. It may take 10 years. But I've been telling you, by 2025, your banking systems look completely different. At 9 o'clock today, we have the CEO of Yield App coming on today for an interview with the Ken Mack and Coach JV show. And I told you by 2030, your world's going to be unrecognizable. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you bank, the way you do everything is going to be different. So we're going to watch the first 8 minutes of this video. Okay, it's not the first 8 minutes, it's a chunk of this video. But I highly recommend you go check out Ray Dalio's channel, and look at Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order by Ray Dalio. He just posted this. Already has like 1 million views. So let's watch this thing. Listen, pay attention, get your notepads out, and I'm going to take you through the facts, figures, numbers, logic.
Over the last few years, 3 big things that hadn't happened in my lifetime prompted me to do this study. First, countries didn't have enough money to pay their debts, even after lowering interest rates to 0. So their central banks began printing lots of money to do so. Second, big internal conflicts emerged due to growing gaps in wealth and values. This showed up in political populism and polarization between the left, who want to redistribute wealth, and the right, who want to defend those holding the wealth. And third, increasing external conflict between a rising great power and the leading great power, as is now happening with China and the United States. So I looked back. I saw that all these had happened together before, many times, and nearly always led to changing domestic and world orders. The last time this sequence happened was from 1930 to 1945. What exactly is an order, you might ask? It's a governing system for people dealing with each other. There are internal orders for governing within countries, typically laid out in constitutions. And there is a world order for governing between countries, typically laid out in treaties. Internal orders change at different times than world orders, though whether within or between countries, these orders typically change after wars. Civil wars within countries, international wars between countries. They happen when revolutionary new forces defeat weak old orders. For example, the U.S. internal order was laid out in the Constitution in 1789 after the American.
Okay, so let's pause for just a moment. I want to narrate some of this. So, civil order, think about inside of America, mask versus no mask, V versus no V, left versus right. We had a massive conflict. Now we're stretching out to the global world order, which is Russia, Ukraine, and NATO.
Revolution, and it is still operating today, even after the American Civil War. Russia got rid of its old order and established a new one with the Russian Revolution in 1917, which ended in 1991 with a relatively bloodless revolution. China began its current internal order in 1949 when the Chinese Communist Party won the Civil War. You get the idea. The current world order, commonly called the American World Order, formed after the Allied victory in World War II, when the U.S. emerged as the dominant world power. It was set out in agreements and treaties for how global governance and monetary systems work. In 1944, the New World Monetary System was laid out in the Bretton Woods Agreement and established the dollar as the world's leading reserve currency.
Okay, so this is important. 1944, Bretton Woods Standard. Then 1971, we detached from the gold standard, turned us into a printing machine. The American dollar is over 100 years in power, okay? And then when it flips, Warriors, think about this for just a moment, okay? When it flips, you ready for this? When it flips, a new superpower comes into play and a new reserve currency.
A reserve currency is a currency that is commonly accepted around the world. And having one is a key factor in a country becoming the richest and most powerful empire. With a new dominant power and monetary system established, a new world order begins. These changes take place in a timeless and universal cycle that I call the Big Cycle.
Okay, so this is nothing new under the sun. This has happened over and over again for the last 500 years. So take a look at this part right here and watch about 3 more minutes, and I'm going to show you facts, figures, numbers, logic.
I'll start with a quick overview, then give you a more complete version, and then direct you to my book if you want more.
Highly recommend you go read his book.
As I studied the 10 most powerful empires over the last 500 years and the last 3 reserve currencies, it took me through the rise and decline of the Dutch Empire and the guilder, the British Empire and the pound, the rise and early decline in the United States Empire and the dollar, and the decline and rise of the Chinese Empire and its currencies, as well as the rise and decline of the Spanish, German, French, Indian, Japanese, Russian, and Ottoman empires, along with their significant conflicts, as measured in this chart. To understand China's patterns better, I also studied the rise and fall of Chinese dynasties and their monies back to the year 600. Because looking at all these measures at once can be confusing, I'll focus on the 4 most important ones: the Dutch, British, US, and Chinese. You'll quickly notice the pattern. Now let's simplify the form a bit. As you can see, they transpired in overlapping cycles that lasted about 250 years, with 10 to 20-year transition periods between them. Typically, these transitions have been periods of great conflict because leading powers don't decline without a fight. So how am I measuring an empire's power? In this study, I used 8 metrics. Each country's measure of total power is derived by averaging them together. They are education, inventiveness and technology development, competitiveness in global markets, economic output, share of world trade, military strength, the power of their financial center for capital markets, and the strength of their currency as a reserve currency. Because these powers are measurable, we can see how strong each country is now, was in the past, and whether they're rising or declining. By examining the sequences from many countries, we can see how a typical cycle transpires. And because the wiggles can be confusing, we can simplify it a bit to focus on the pattern of cause-effect relationships that drive the rise and decline of a typical empire. As you can see, better education typically leads to increased innovation and technology development, and with a lag, the establishment of the currency as a reserve currency.
Okay, so think about this for just a moment. America is way behind. China's technology is dominating.
You can also see that these forces then declined in a similar order, reinforcing each other's decline. Let's now look at the typical sequence of events going on inside a country that produces these rises and declines. In a nutshell, the big cycle typically begins after a major conflict, often a war, establishes the new leading power and the new world order. Because no one wants to challenge this power, a period of peace and prosperity typically follows. As people get used to this peace and prosperity, they increasingly bet on it continuing. They borrow money to do that, which eventually leads to a financial bubble. The empire's share of trade grows, and when most transactions are conducted in its currency, it becomes a reserve currency, which leads to even more borrowing.
Okay, so that's where we're at right now. We're the reserve currency, we're borrowing, we had confidence for a long time, and now our confidence is being shaken.
At the same time, this increased prosperity distributes wealth unevenly. So the wealth gap typically grows between the rich haves and the poor have-nots. Eventually, the financial bubble bursts, which leads to the printing of money and increased internal conflict between the rich and the poor, which leads to some form of revolution to redistribute wealth. This can happen peacefully or as a civil war.
So this is happening right now with the cryptocurrency, DeFi. So the poor are going after the rich. There's a biggest shift in generational wealth. You got mass versus mass, V versus V, left versus right.
While the empire struggles with this internal conflict, its power diminishes relative to external rival powers on the rise. When a new rising power gets strong enough to compete with the dominant power that is having domestic breakdowns, external conflicts, most typically wars, take place. Out of these internal and external wars come new winners and losers. Then the winners get together to create the new world order.
Boom. Okay, so we're going to stop right there. I highly recommend you go watch this video for yourself. Educate yourself, warriors. This is principles of dealing with changes in the world order. I told you guys this 2 years ago that China was on its way to be the new superpower. Well, let's take a look at what's happening and how this new world order is shifting. Okay, let's look at facts, figures, numbers, logic. Okay, and you don't have to believe a word I say. Let's just narrate through this. So Russia and China unveil a pact against America and the West. In a sweeping long-term agreement, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, the two most powerful autocrats, challenged the current political and military order. Okay. Now we got SEC chair, roughly 250 Chinese companies could be delisted as early as 2004. We have a civil conflict inside of America. We're falling apart. Our country's fucked. You guys know that. We're a disaster in America. We are actually looked at very poorly now. America, I mean, I'm not going to get into politics, but we are looked at very poorly now. We are shaking, like we're literally crumbling at the seams right now. So now there's this internal conflict. Now we're having an external conflict. Okay. Russia banks rush to switch to Chinese card system. So now Russia and China are coming together at a cohesive unit. China is super, super advanced, right? They're way advanced in their technology. Russia and China coming together as the new powerhouse coming together to take out America. Is that what's happening? Okay. China almost certainly owns more gold than the US. Here's why that matters. Okay. If you thought the West was unprepared for inflation or indeed for Russia, wait and see just how unprepared it is for the bombshell. The biggest story in world finance, and yet nobody, bar your interpreted blogger, is reporting on it. It's crazy. The sanction on Russia and its removal of the SWIFT system messaging system this week, and perhaps the most dramatic example of all. Russia civilians have had their wealth disseminated. In fact, probably significantly more disseminated for most almost overnight. China will surely be watching all of this, learning from Russia's mistakes and thinking it needs to de-dollarize and swiftly and discreetly as possible. Whether to protect its citizens, wealth, or national interests, China cannot be beholden to the banking system that is run by the West. The U.S. especially, and which is using it as a weapon of war. Warriors, I told you this is to bring in a new monetary system. China, America, and Russia, I believe, are locked arm in arm behind the scenes, moving us into a new system. They work behind the scenes, warriors. Unfortunately, we are the victims of the switch in the monetary system. It's always power and money. China is buying up American farms, and Washington wants to crack down. As you guys have heard, I won't read this whole article, but China is buying up tons of farmland in America right under our nose. Well, there's an interesting connection. Okay. You got Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They are connected to China through their foundation. Now, this is in regards to health, right? Health. I don't know if it's a narrative, zero carbon, health, but Bill and Melinda Gates are attached to China in regards to their foundation and do a lot of work with China. And then if you look here, this is the map for the Bill Gates specifically. I think they're divorced now, but this is how much land he owns. Think about that. In Arizona, look at the map. He is one of the biggest farmland holders. So there's something happening in America. We are so fucking worried on WAP videos and pornography and excessive video. We literally got too much of a good thing. We have our heads so far up our asses as our whole world changes. This is serious shit, warriors. This is your life changing as you know it. I've been preparing for this since I was in banking and understanding that something is shifting. I didn't know what it was, and now I have eyes to see and ears to hear, and I'm getting ready for the biggest shift in generational wealth and the biggest shift in our economic cycles. Okay, so now we got China has tons of gold. They've been buying precious metals, stacking up on precious metals. We have Russia going after Ukraine. The first thing they did was a cyber attack on their banks. We're hearing Russia's going to do a cyber attack on our banks. We go protect NATO. We take them off the SWIFT system. We work to take them off the SWIFT system. It's all financial. You have the XRP Ripple case happening right now to bring in new regulation for distributed ledger technology wars. You're literally seeing, I'm giving you the facts, figures, numbers, logic, playing it out. Okay. So this is on 4/29/2020. This is the U.S. China Economic and Security Review Commission. This is a summary. China has become the leading developer and exporting its smart cities and technology like network cameras, sensors, and location services. Okay, so this is really important too. I want to dive into this. Did you hear what that just said? China has become the leader in developing and exporting smart cities, technologies, network cameras, sensors, and location services, and the rest of the Internet of Things, okay, to collect a wide variety of data, controlling things, traffic, energy usage, crime, and to augment state powers. Now, why would he be buying all this land up? Now, there's something that's really interesting. If I could find this here. Designed for designated cities of tomorrow. Here we go. Okay, Bill Gates has started laying out his plans for creating smart cities in Phoenix, Arizona. Science News outlet Futurism wrote, the high-tech metropolises could be both breeding and testing ground for future technologies. In reality, the idea that Bill Gates was single-handedly reinventing farming and designing cities of tomorrow was almost entirely speculation. There's a tendency in that the media personalizes this. People want to know, why does Bill Gates own all this land? But hyper-wealthy people like Bill Gates don't make every decision personally, okay? Given that Bill Gates is the third richest person in the world with the estimate worth of 132 billion, he falls in behind Tesla founder Elon Musk. Okay, where's it at here? The smart cities. The arrangement is simple. The Wall Street Journal wrote 214. Where's it at? His eggs. Hold on, I had it right here. Okay, I'm not going to bore you with this. But anyways, if you read through this article, it talks about the fact that he's buying up all this land. He's wanting to start smart cities. which you go into here. This is China's smart city development. And then I'm going to show you the actual document from right here. Okay. So this is the China Smart City Development. This is the U.S. and China Economic and Security Review Commission. So we go to this document and I go to page 10 here. Okay. All right. Let's go to page 10. Okay. So here on page 10, where was I at? Man, I'm jacking up this research this morning. Here we go. Prioritize. Bear with me. To mitigate cities, here we go. To better quality, smart recommendations. Okay, here we go. Okay, so page 4. I don't know what happened to all my research here. Okay, so now let me take a deep breath. Okay, so China owns a bunch of farmland. Bill Gates owns a bunch of farmland. Then you have right here the U.S.-China Economic Securities Review. This is the actual review. On the basis of the key findings, the authors offer the following recommendation to ensure U.S. global competitiveness and oversee smart city markets, safeguard U.S. national security interests, and home abroad to protect the privacy of U.S. citizens, to better quantify the spread of foreign smart cities technology in the U.S. domestic systems, encouraging the creation of local and regional oversight task force to collect more accurate data, identifying possible risks in foreign investments in domestic infrastructure, and maintain an information sharing mechanism between these communities. Warriors, we have a relationship with China. You understand that, right? You're seeing this thing play out. This is nothing new under the sun. There's a massive economic shift happening. Okay, there's players in the game that move the ecosystem, but how do you move people? How do you move people? Okay. You get people to look this way and you switch the narrative this way. You're not going to get a bunch of people to move through positivity. Say, hey, Mrs. Jones, we're actually going to switch your banking system. No, you need internal conflict first. Then you need a massive external conflict, which worries the living shit out of people, puts them in fear. And what does fear do? It gets people to activate. And when people are in fear and you give them a solution, it looks very palatable. Problem, reaction, solution. So that's where we're at, Warriors. So sorry for messing that up a little bit, but as you guys know, I don't edit my videos. I just flow with it. So I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. If you want to join one of the best private warrior academies to meet my 13 team members and what we're doing here at the 3T Warrior Academy so we can help you into this quantum financial system, 3T Warrior Academy, we appreciate you. We love you. And as we always say, Warriors, get your shit together. I know I am.